I work with stroke patients in an acute care setting, as well as after that initial 24 hours to help get them back on their feet in their baseline. I coordinate our program to ensure that all of the nurses and physicians in the community that we work with is given the appropriate information and education regarding stroke care. 1 in 6 people will have a stroke. Stroke is the leading cause of long-term disability in this country. It's really important for caregivers and everybody to know these signs and symptoms fast. Face, arm, speech, time to call 911, because the faster you can get to the hospital, the faster they can treat you. Being a healthcare provider myself and working with stroke care, it was always important that I educated Parker. Hopefully none of his young friends are going to have a stroke, but when you're around other people, if you know the signs and symptoms of stroke, you can help them get the care that they need quickly.
My mom's probably the healthiest person I know, and she's the most dedicated person I know too. Every morning at 4 o'clock, she comes in, gives me a kiss, and goes and runs.
We were off on holiday, and after I ran, Parker decided he wanted to go to Starbucks with me. We got our Starbucks and we're headed home.
Well, we were at a red light, we're just having a conversation like we always do, and all of a sudden, she kind of lost feeling in her hand, and I saw the coffee cup start to slip.
Arm. Is one of your arms more weak than the other? I turned to Parker to try and ask him to take the coffee cup out of my hand. And the words that were in my mind were not coming out of my mouth. Speech. Are you slurring your words? Are you really able to find your words?
And I said, "What's wrong?" Because she wouldn't talk anymore. And then her whole left side of her face started drooping.
Face. Are you having numbness or tingling in your face? Is it sliding? Parker looked at me and he said, "Mom, you're having a stroke." Time to call 911, and you have to get to the hospital immediately.
It was time for me to step in and do something, and I knew I had to do something.
We changed positions in the car, and he drove me straight back to the emergency room. We were half a mile away from a primary stroke care center.
So we just went straight there. I got there as fast as I could.
I was there within 7 minutes of my symptom onset. After my stroke, because I had been completely asymptomatic my whole life, I found out that I had a congenital heart defect that caused me to throw a clot into my head and have a stroke. Had this happened to me 10 years ago, I would probably be in a long-term care facility. I probably wouldn't be able to eat, and I probably wouldn't be able to communicate with my family. I probably would have never regained the strength in my arm or the ability to speak or eat. As a nurse, that was incredibly scary to me because I do know the numbers and I do know how devastating and catastrophic this could have been to me. Without the American Heart Association and all of the research that they have enabled to happen and all of the community awareness that they provide, we wouldn't be where we're at today with stroke care. As a stroke survivor, one of my biggest fears was that I was not going to be able to be a productive part of society. But when you get treated quickly, you're more than likely going to be able to walk out of the hospital. So 12 days after my stroke, I ran 12 miles. And then 26 days after my stroke, I ran my first marathon. And I remember after my stroke thinking that it wasn't going to happen. But as the day got closer, I decided I was going to start with all of the other marathon runners. I didn't know where my finish line was going to be, but that was going to be okay wherever it was at. I still doubted myself, but I wanted to try. So I started at the beginning. I felt amazing the entire race. And I kept on looking at the medic tents, and I didn't need to go to one. And I think at mile 17, I thought, I'm in single digits. I'm in single digits. I only have 9 miles left. And then at mile 25, I actually thought, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna be a marathon runner. And I didn't have to think about being a stroke survivor for a little bit. And since then, I've ran another marathon, and my goal is to run 3 or 4 a year. My relationship with my patients is on a much deeper level, as I'm a stroke survivor myself. The fear of losing control and not being able to make your body work the way it works all on its own, I felt that fear. I can help guide them through that fear and pain while we're treating them during that acute stage. And then when I'm seeing them while they're in the hospital, they can see how amazing your recovery can be. So I do give them hope. And going forward, speaking and in the community, if I can just help one person prevent or one person get to the hospital in time so they are not a part of that long-term disability group, I'm over the moon. It is so important to fund the American Heart Association because heart disease is still the #1 killer. And if we can use the funding to prevent heart disease and stroke, as well as research when those events do happen to people, and we can make that as minimal as possible to get them back up on their feet, then we can assure that people continue to have a normal life and can enjoy their families.